Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Geeks and Gamers Talks Wrestling. I am your host once again, Odin, joined by Zach and Corey. Zach, how's it going, man?
Not bad. Got off a long day of work.
Awesome. Corey, what about you, man?
I'm good, man. I just got off the couch.
Nice. Solid. All right. So today we're going to be talking about NXT, then, now, forever. So let's start off with the past, though. Let's start off with NXT when it first started off. What are y'all's thoughts? Who are some of y'all's favorite wrestlers, some of y'all's favorite storylines from the old NXT? You can go all the way back to when it was just the host show where, you know, everyone would come on and they would have like a pro that would help them out. Or you can go to when they actually made it into the actual Full Sail University show. But Corey, what are your thoughts on the original NXT, the old NXT?
I don't know what you're talking about, though. The host and pros and
Hey, that first season was actually not that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't as good as it is now, but it wasn't that bad.
All right. I'll let you have that.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, come on. You had like Chris Jericho with Wade Barrett and stuff. Like there was some solid stuff.
Matt Hardy, Justin Gabriel.
It was good.
Miz and Daniel Bryan, like solid stuff.
There was a lot of seeds planted.
And that's what was great about that first season.
But then we were bestowed with Titus O'Neil later on.
Good point.
But we also got CM Punk and Darren Young, and CM Punk just crapped all over him the entire time, and it was perfect. It was.
And we got heel Michael Cole too, just like walking out, which with the whole women's revolution thing, which I think is awesome. But how funny would it be for them to go back and play the clip that you'll never ever see again of Michael Cole just crapping all over the women during the women's season.
Oh yeah, when we had Caitlyn, Naomi, AJ, Oksana, Maxine, and Jamie.
Yeah,
you got that written down because I wouldn't even remember that.
Oh no, I have the Wikipedia page pulled up right now. And this, the pros were Vicky Guerrero, Kelly, Primo, Goldust, Alicia Fox, and the Bella Twins. Good lord.
Yes, sir.
No wonder that like whole cast is gone.
Poor Oksana. No, but I've been watching NXT, like the good NXT, since the very beginning when it was on Hulu, and I mean, I think I said it on the first show we did together. When I was telling people about it, I was like, yeah, it's like watching old school wrestling, like when you were a teenager or a kid. You know, it's hard to predict stuff. There's all these new people. It's like a minor league is what it was and what it seemed like. The production was way lower than it is now. If you go back and watch some of those older shows, it's pretty incredible what has grown out of NXT. But there's so many cool things that went on that first season, and going back and looking at the people that were there and the bigger stars that they had sent down there, like Cesaro and him having his deal with Sami Zayn.
Oh my God!
Incredible matches. We had. Zach and I both are fans of Bo Dallas, and I think that was one of my favorite things to ever happen in NXT was when they kicked him out of Full Sail, and he yelled, "You're touching my butt! Stop touching my butt!"
Oh my God, Bo Dallas was so good.
Oh my God, that was like one of my favorite early NXT moments. You had, Cassius Ohno. I thought his early run was cool. Chris Hero, man. I like Chris Hero.
No. See, there you said it. You said Chris Hero. There's a difference between Chris Hero and Cassius Ohno. Chris Hero is cool. Cassius Ohno is what the fuck?
Cassius Ohno is someone to help the younger guys. And I think
He can't even help himself.
Dude, I think he is one of the best super heavyweights.
I'm not denying that, but Cassius Ohno is a shell of his former self as Chris Hero. He needs to get out of NXT and go back to the Indies and enjoy a great career.
He's probably pretty happy with what he's got there, I'm sure, travel-wise, money-wise, and then the fact that he's going to be helping. I have a feeling his first feud might be with, or Keith Lee's first feud might be with Cassius Ohno, which, we
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
we'll get to that when we talk about the future of NXT, for sure.
Right, but
more into Keith Lee then.
Saying that, Cassius Ohno is, he was there, he left, he came back. Richie Steamboat, that was another one.
FCW.
Yeah.
Before it became NXT.
Yeah,
Richie Steamboat was the bomb. Him and Seth Rollins had a teardown match in FCW before, right before it became NXT. Oh my God! So I've been watching NXT, FCW, like as a development territory. Period. So when Seth Rollins became the first champion, Big E's 5 count, like that stuff was classic. Was great stuff. And Richie, it's sad to see not.
But so he got injured, right?
Yeah, he hurt his back. I think it was. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. But for him to not be able to perform anymore is sad because he could have probably been just as good, if not better, than his dad.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a white hot baby face. I mean, that crowd at Full Sail, I mean, they absolutely loved him.
Mm-hmm. So Zach, what are your thoughts on that? The kind of the beginnings, the origins of NXT. You kind of already talked about a little bit how, Florida Championship Wrestling (FCW) was a big influence. They pretty much brought all the guys from FCW into their NXT program. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it was really nice because we got to see like the first foundations of the Wyatt family. We got to see the first foundations of the Shield. And Seth Rollins as champion when he's just swinging the NXT title around, which the old NXT title, I really am not a fan of it. So, like, it was okay, I guess, but it wasn't. But, I mean, Seth Rollins doing that bit where he's just swinging the title around, winning, like, him and, I think he went against, wasn't it, Curtis Axel? Was it? Oh, yeah, it was Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal and him had a total classic match. That's where I became a fan of Jinder Mahal, is right there. So, like, when Jinder Mahal finally became champion on the main roster, I was okay with it because what I saw him do with Seth Rollins down in NXT was awesome. And we said, Cesaro went down there, Jinder Mahal, Curtis Axel, there's William Regal went down there.
They had every week it seemed like they brought somebody down. And
CM Punk.
For a while was CM Punk, and he was on commentary whenever can't remember was Seth champion at the time.
It was Seth was his champion, and he came down and did commentary and stuff, and like was helping out. And then Seth and him did a tag team match with I can't remember who they went against, but that was a really good match too. But then you go to Bo. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't give a crap what anyone says out there. Bo Dallas has been and is still the best NXT champion there ever was. Like, hands down, what he was doing with the Bo Leave gimmick, no one could touch him. Like, he had beautiful heel heat. He had the comedy relief, and I've always said, I'm a huge fan of comedy wrestling. So if you can add comedy wrestling with a seriousness, you have me hook, line, and sinker. And Bo Dallas was just, like Corey said, he was like, "Don't touch my butt, don't touch my butt." Like, he's just so good. And him and Neville were putting on, I would have to say, at least 4-star matches at that time. At least. They were throwing down some great matches. And then you had Big E down there. You had, I'm trying to think of who all was like the main. Enzo and Cass finally started showing their face and stuff. And the soft gimmick was amazing at first. And then it became like lame, but.
No, I agree. And I really do think that when you look to the origins of NXT, and obviously it started off as kind of that, that gimmicky, we're going to have a bunch of pros with a bunch of newbies, and it was just basically a random part of the show. It wasn't its own entity yet. And so I never actually really got into those because there were definitely some rough patches to that because it was just so disjointed because sometimes the chemistry between the characters just didn't work. It was hard for me to get into at the time. Going back and looking at it, though, I will say that I really do like it because it shows the origins of some of these characters, of some of these wrestlers, and it's really cool. So I started all the way back at the very beginning and have actually gotten to the point I'm currently at the point when they finally moved to Full Sail University. I want to say that I'm like 2 or 3 episodes into the new stuff there when they first started off. And it's just so cool to see the origins of people like Seth Rollins, Derek Bateman, who is now EC3, the 1%. Like to see his start off and to see like how he was even a good wrestler back then and was just underappreciated, and how after he left, he made a name for himself, and now he's been brought back. It's just really cool to see the origins of those wrestlers and the origins of those characters and how they developed over time. So to me, like the origins is really cool to watch nowadays, especially when you connect it to FCW and the old, developmental territory, and how NXT really was for a very long time. Because some people might try and argue that it's still today, but for a very long time, it was indeed that developmental program. I don't think people talking about today, moving from then to now, I don't think anyone would argue that it's purely developmental at this point, because it's such its own brand at this point that there are so many people, myself included, who would rather watch an hour of NXT than any of the stuff going on in the main roster. I personally. And I really do think that it's beyond developmental now. It's its own brand, and it's kicking the main roster's ass in so many different ways. Go ahead, Zach.
The best way to explain NXT to like the non-casual fans, and most people know what Impact Wrestling is now, but if you go back and watch what TNA originally was and what it stood for, and with AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Petey Williams, Bobby Roode, all those guys were doing in that time, NXT really has become what TNA should have been. They had the great start, but they didn't have the backing to keep it going, where Dusty Rhodes was able to keep the backing going with Triple H's help and everything and creativity. Those two, you put those two brains together with wrestling knowledge that they have, and they made this baby that, like you said, that 1 hour of TV is more enjoyable than watching 5 hours of main roster. But, now you talk about the difference, because I'm going to go to the main roster real quick. SmackDown has been highly enjoyable, but you have one of those aspects that you said, that origin story of The Miz and Daniel Bryan's first starts of their feud, which was NXT Season 1, as Miz was Daniel Bryan's pro. So they hinted at that, and Miz keeps bringing that up. I was your pro, I'm still your pro, blah, blah, blah. So it's cool to see that story, how it has progressed from the NXT world and migrated up. You had the same thing with Kevin Owens migrating up with the NXT World Title, going against John Cena, which was a beautiful organic way to bring him up. It was supposed to be originally for Sami Zayn, if I remember right, but it was a great way to bring Kevin up, and then it's a great way to keep the Miz and Daniel Bryan's feud fresh. So NXT, like you said, is its full black and yellow, 100%.
Yeah, a lot of people that I've talked to, at least now, what NXT has become, they feel like, it's great matches and, definitely better than the main roster. But over the past few years, it's just become something for the WWE to pick up anybody and everybody that they want to and have them in their own indie brand. And I can see that to a sense. I don't think that's what it is, necessarily. I mean, business wise, of course. I mean, you see something, you have the money, you're gonna get it. I mean, and they're not holding guns to these guys' heads. I mean, they're like, hey, we're gonna pay you some money, you come down to Florida and live, you get to wrestle, and you get notoriety, and if you want to, main roster, hopefully. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's not how it started. So
yeah, and that's what's just really cool about everything is talking about the product today and how it has just transformed to being that developmental at first and now becoming its own entity. And you talk about how we have that origin of the Daniel Bryan storyline that's now even playing out even more so, because that was just there. To me, that's for a whole other episode talking about Daniel Bryan and The Miz, because that to me is going to be one of the greatest feuds of like the past 10 years, in my opinion, because there's just been so much build to it. But as far as like NXT now, what I love about it is that now you've got all these characters coming. And not only just that, I feel like there's wrestlers now who would rather spend their time down at NXT than move up to the main roster. Because
that's a proven fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Drew came back from the indie scene after getting fired with 3MB and everything, the whole storyline they put in NXT where he said he wanted to go to NXT first, that was not storyline. That was legitimacy. Drew McIntyre wanted to go back down to NXT and prove himself to Triple H and Vince McMahon. So he 100% said, I'm going to the bottom and I'm working my way back up.
Yeah. And it's not even just that, but also like some people, like obviously Vince still sees it as the bottom. At this point, I see NXT as the top because they got the best matches going on right now. They got some of the best storylines going on right now. And whenever I hear about people getting moved up to the main roster, there's a part of me that always kind of dies because I think to myself, God, they're probably never going to be as good as they are right now, because as soon as Vince gets his hands on their character, so often, like 9 times out of 10, they just get destroyed by their booking and by the choices being made up there.
Well, thank God Neville didn't go Mighty Mouse.
Oh, yeah, that would have been bad. But that's why I was okay with somebody like Leo Rush going to 205, because it was like, okay, well, he's in H's hands.
Yeah.
And Leo Rush is working the gimmick, and I mean he's having a match with Tozawa tomorrow night, so I'm looking forward to that. And they're going back and forth on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I stated it to you guys earlier. Part of me is that guy that wants to see Ricochet and Aleister Black both go to 205 Live and not go to Raw or SmackDown, for the simple fact that they stay in Triple H's hands. They bring some type of star power to 205 Live, and people don't realize how good 205 Live has become. And most of those boys in 205 Live were all NXT dudes.
Yeah.
Every one of them. So,
I get your point, man.
For me, though, I think I would rather 205 Live go to Full Sail. I think 205 Live would become an amazing product. It's already becoming amazing, but if you had that small crowd at Full Sail, oh my God, like that would be the second. Like if NXT is like, to me right now, NXT is the premier show. 205 Live would easily become like the next premier show, and it would outshine Raw and SmackDown every single damn week. And I know that, there's arguments made one way or the other, but I really do wish they would do that, because I think, one, it would make it easier on those guys overall, like for the traveling, especially since they're not being featured on Raw or SmackDown anymore. They have just their own, their own show. Right. I would personally love to see that.
Yeah.
I would okay with that.
That would be awesome. I've heard people talk about that before too, whenever when 205 started traveling, period. That was, a lot of people were saying, especially on the group, they were saying, that would be perfect if they went down to Florida and were in 205. Like the crowd would just eat it up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, you can. I know we're getting off topic of NXT, but watch the Cruiserweight Classic. That was all shot in Full Sail, and how many people were like hyped for that. So, I mean, it would work, and NXT's thriving with that kind of feature. So why not do another one down there that has a smaller feature anyway?
Why do you think 205 Live kind of like, for me, like the biggest tell that they messed it up was that there was such hype in like the hardcore fan base for cruiserweights. And then when 205 Live was announced, everyone was like, oh, we're so excited. And then they just butchered it because they did it wrong. They took it away. They broke away from the formula that they set up in the Cruiserweight Classic. And they ended up ruining, actually, I think, a lot of guys' characters, which are finally now starting to get, put back together because of the current product.
Vince ruined the Cruiserweight Classic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, of course. Who else would I be talking about? I mean, come on.
Well, just to look at Cedric Alexander in the Cruiserweight Classic and then look at him on 205. Yes, he's the champion. Yes, he does get cheered, but completely different how he was received by the Full Sail crowd.
We're asking for him to be signed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had, the show ended with Triple H walking out and putting his arm around him, storybook shit. So
yeah, it was, I agree with Odin. 205 would thrive in an NXT environment like that. So, we could go on about 205 Live, but NXT.
Yeah. But I guess that kind of helps us, and it's actually not as much of a tangent because to me, I think it kind of helps us to bridge going on now to like talking about the future of NXT because we talked about our parts of the favorite parts of the past, what it was able to set up, what it is now, and how it's really branched off into so many different things. And where can NXT go in the future? Like we were talking about Keith Lee. Oh my God, guys! Like y'all saw that first match that he had.
Okay, so about that first match, I'm a huge Keith Lee fan.
Yeah,
but the other dude was just as good, and I'm like, I want to see more of the other cat. What was the
German dude?
Yeah, I can't remember his name now.
His character too was just phenomenal.
We're over here supposed to be like featuring Keith Lee, and I'm like, this guy's just as good as Keith. Like, do this again. Martel Bethel or whatever.
Marcel.
We are butchering him.
Marcel Bartel. Because I remember that I thought it was Barthel, but they pronounced it Bartel. So,
like, I'm a huge Keith Lee fan, and the dude's going to be awesome. But I want to see more of Bartel, 100%.
Absolutely. Like his whole thing with 9, and like the audience was getting into his character too. It was like, this is wrestling. This is how you build a match. Like as I said before, I said this in the last time we did a video. Like NXT matches, they know how to create a story in the ring. And when you got two guys that have never faced off in the ring before, making the audience invested, creating that story. I mean,
like I legitimately want to see a feud from those two, like a hardcore feud. Like I'm like Keith Lee, okay, so Oney Larkin became one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He just walks down the ring, hand up, doing the one sign and stuff, and then he just goes out there and just tears fucking face off. And I'm like, this guy's doing the same thing Oney's doing, and Oney got over because of that and did nothing really to it. I'm just like, oh my God, the future for NXT is just crazy, in my opinion.
No, it really is, especially with that addition. So, Corey, what about you? What are your thoughts on the future of NXT?
Yeah, it's a love-hate thing. I mean, NXT as a whole, I'm always going to love it, and I always think that we've talked about that before with the crop of stars. It's always going to be, a revolving door. People are coming in. But then I start thinking about people going to the main roster like you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And so it's like you want to enjoy every bit of seeing something like Ciampa. I've said Ciampa like
I say it all the time too.
And he went on Twitter and was like, for all the dirt sheets and know-it-alls, it's Ciampa. And I was like, man, I'm such a fucking asshole, whatever. So, Ciampa and Gargano, enjoy those guys because, you look at something like Nakamura on the main roster, and I mean, it's okay, but man, it's nothing like whatever.
Nothing compared to NXT.
Nakamura and Sami Zayn, dude, go back and look at that crowd. Jeez.
But I will one caveat to that. I will say that to me, Nakamura has proven himself more so now ever since he turned heel.
Because that's what made Nakamura great. NXT, it worked for him in NXT to be a babyface because it was a smaller crowd. So it worked. It made sense. But if you go back to Nakamura before he ever came to WWE, what made Nakamura so big in Japan? He turned heel.
Yeah, he antagonized people. I mean, he was weird. He was off the wall, and it wasn't a babyface thing. He wore a crown, like he was getting under people's skin, And I mean, great point.
That's like Okada coming over, and then they're like, "We're gonna make him heel right off the bat." Oh, what?
Hey, that sounds about right.
But no. But Nakamura is a great example of somebody from that who at first was floundering on the main roster, but thrived thoroughly in NXT. And I kind of feel like Joe had a small stint kind of like that when he came up. And like I said, it was a small stint where Joe kind of like just was like the jobber badass for everybody because he could back it up. But if you go back and watch, my favorite match of Finn Balor's was Joe and Finn Balor's first match where he busted Joe open. And they're both
stop the match.
They're both livid and pissed off that this shit happened. And then Joe's just like, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. And they did so well. And I feel like the main, not the main roster, but the future, we're going to be able to see some feuds like that. Like, we haven't seen a real feud in NXT that had the animosity built around it really since Ciampa and Gargano now, but Joe and Finn were the last ones to really do that. Excelled heat, you would say. I want to know who the next group of guys are going to do it. Like, who are the next two that are going to be able to pull that much? Like, is it going to be Ricochet and somebody? Are we going to see the War Raiders do something? What'd I do wrong?
No, dude, it's gonna be EC3 and Velveteen Dream.
That's right.
That is gonna be your nuclear heat between.
Oh my God.
You know, I almost want to see those guys become like friends.
Oh my God, yeah, dude.
It could be a tag team.
That vignette they did together. The vignette they did together with the pool.
Yes,
like
so good.
I'm
it's
like
3 feet deep, man.
Right, put them together. Like, oh my God, this could be great.
You're thinking like a bar dynamic.
I am. Yes.
Yes.
So the odd tag teams of going back to last week, tag teams are my favorite, and I've always liked the odd man tag team like Mad Hardy and DT. When they're doing the challenges and having the eating contest, the three throw, like that shit was classic. So if we could get a Velveteen Dream, EC3, like
a tan off.
Well, Dream already wins.
Hey, EC3 would fight that to the death. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
But also, like that whole setup, you have them like have that competition. I think it would be. You could do a long-term booking where you could actually make them a dominant tag team, even let them like win the tag team titles in NXT, and then boom, you can have the same kind of situation where I guess EC3 would be the one to turn heel on Velveteen, but then you could have that setup of a one-on-one match for the NXT title.
It'd be so good.
Lord.
No, we're on to something. WWE, you need to listen right now. Like, put those two together. Build it up to where like EC3 or give Velveteen Dream the NXT title. EC3 gets jealous, then turns and make that happen because that what's his name, Keanu Reeves or whatever, Keanu Reeves or that dude. He ain't the finest. Get that fucking Hawaiian dipshit off the.
He's so boring.
He was boring the first couple weeks. Over the past couple weeks, he grabbed me. And maybe that just makes me a terrible person.
You're
horrible taste. But he is the finest, and I think y'all are going to be eating your words for 6 months, dude.
No, he's going to be a jabroni that like Tyler Breeze was at the beginning where he couldn't find a gimmick. And
you leave Tyler Breeze.
No. I'm a Tyler Breeze fan. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Tyler Breeze went through like 17 gimmicks at the beginning of NXT, and Keanu Reeves or whatever the hell his name is.
Keanu Reeves or whatever it is. Yeah. But I will say this much. If I can give it a great example, Keanu Reeves is a clearance rack Rock Johnson.
Oh, for sure. 100%. I can agree with that.
I'm not buying it.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
We do need to give some love to the female of NXT with like Nikki Cross.
Oh my God, yeah.
Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans has become a boss. My favorite is still Oh god dang it! Not Shayna Baszler, the black
No,
chick
not-
with the whip
Not Shayna Baszler. Hell no. not
Dude,
Shayna Baszler.
the EST of
of
NXT.
NXT. Oh my god, I love her.
Blair.
Bianca Belair.
Bianca Belair, yeah.
I absolutely love her gimmick.
Yeah,
Dude, also, she is one of the few, like, to me, she's one of the few female wrestlers where I believe she can kick anyone in that ring's ass.
yeah, she's
Like, hands
like,
down.
yeah,
Like, there's very few that I feel that. But not only that, but also that they still also have that finesse to pull off the moves in the ring. Because I believe Shayna Baszler could beat someone up in real life, but she does not have the finesse in the ring to really convince me that she's a wrestler at this point.
The only problem with like Shayna Baszler is that she's starting to come around for me to where I'm accepting her as a heel character. Yeah. And when she first came out, I was like, yeah, you can just put Ember Moon back on. I don't like her, but just give the belt back to her, and I'll just stuck with the gothic cheerleader and that can't talk. Like, I'll be cool with that. Because Shayna couldn't talk. She did, like, the stupid, like, DDP.
She still does it.
But,
Diamond upside down. Sorry, I had to do that.
Teach me. No. God dang it, Kairi Sane. So her and Kairi Sane, and when Kairi Sane came in, I've never really been a big fan of Kairi Sane, even in New Japan. And it's nothing against Kairi Sane. She has still one of the dopest female elbow drops there is. Anyone, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can even go farther and say any elbow drop, but those two together, like, has made me go, okay, I really want to see Kairi Sane wrestle her now. And Shayna, you're starting to actually be a badass. Like, I'm okay with this. This is starting to be good now. And then you have Lacey Evans, like I said. You have Bianca Belair. That little meow kitty chick, Ali or Aaliyah. Yeah, she can go back. She can go away. Like, WWE just
gonna end up on the main roster.
Kitty chick.
WWE just fire her ass, like, get her out of here. Don't go put her with Natalia and make her kitty farmer.
She's good cannon fodder. I would say.
No, I'd rather watch Cassius Ohno get his ass kicked more often, lose, than watch even an ounce of her come out to the ring and act all goofy with her cat ears.
Yeah,
she irritates me. 100% irritates me.
All right. Any guys? So let's go with Corey. Corey, any last-minute thoughts on the past, present, future, then, now, forever of NXT before we wrap things up?
I think we're in good hands. I want to give a match shout out. That it might be something somebody forgot about, since we were talking about Tyler Breeze and Jushin Liger at NXT TakeOver. I mean, that sentence alone, you know.
That's right. Oh my God,
that was a good match. That was very, very fun match.
Yeah, it wasn't something that was critically acclaimed or anything. I think it may have gotten like 2.5 or 3 stars, something like that. But just in terms of being a fun match and just being a spectacle type thing, with Breeze being on fire at that point, like, he was just hitting everything perfectly. And then, you know, having Jushin Liger, you know, a legend, and then also his comedic, you know, self that he does well. That's just something, if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it and forgot about it, go back and watch it.
All right, sounds good. Zach, what about you?
I have to say, everybody needs to go back and watch everything that made Carmella the moonwalking, trash talking, greatest heel, women's champion that she has became today. She came from a hair salon. She was amazing.
She should go back to that hair salon.
She's the only one.
She can go moonwalk all the way back to the hair salon.
She's the only one that is still with the company that was part of a trio. I don't remember the other 2 names. I think one of them was like Big Ass. But no, seriously, like
2 Z's, right?
2 Z's. I've just always been a fan of what the female have done down there. And if you go back and watch most of the female stuff, there were some great matches within the female. Go back and watch, and everybody talks about it, and everybody needs to talk about it. And I'm not a Sasha Banks fan, but Bayley and Sasha Banks have a tear-down Iron Man's match. And that's going to be my match shout-out. because that is still personally one of my favorite matches. And it was just so good to watch two female have the empowerment to make all the men on the roster quiver in their boots.
I don't agree with the Carmella comments, but I will still appreciate the Iron Man match show. For me, though, and this kind of is to tie it into this coming weekend. So as many of y'all guys know, this coming weekend we've got NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4, which I know I am very hyped for. And so I'm going to say my match shout-out, and also just it talks about not only the past but also the future of NXT, and that is Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. So to me, one of the greatest matches I've seen lately was definitely the unsanctioned match between those two. Like, it was just so awesome. The fact that they put their bodies on the line, like you could totally just see the amount of pain that they went through. You could see all the bruises as they were going through it. Like, you just believed everything going on. You felt the hatred that they had for each other. It was awesome. The storytelling was fantastic. And I am so looking forward to was an Iron Man match that's coming up this weekend.
I think so, yeah.
Last Man Standing.
Last Man Standing, that's right. Last Man Standing. So I cannot wait to see another chapter put into this storyline. And I'm dreading the day that they get called up to the main show, because if Vince gets a hold of them, I just think their characters are going to be totally ruined. And I'm not looking forward to that.
I have this small feeling that those two guys will be two of the cats that get Triple H safety netted when they come up.
I hope so.
I have a feeling, because I read in one of the like tabloid things, the dirt sheets, that Ciampa is actually one of Vince's favorites right now in the NXT world. So I have a feeling that Johnny and him will be both kind of get safety netted with Triple H and do big things. Now, shock to the system, they're going to go flat.
Oh, hey, wait. Since you said shock to the system, how can we not give a shout-out to Undisputed Era?
Because Adam Cole has one thing that's cool about him, and it's Adam Cole, baby.
No.
You cannot come on this show and defend Carmella and then attack Adam Cole.
I did. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly and Roger Strong are the only things good about this.
Can I finish?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
You can argue Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly has more personality in his finger than any person on the NXT roster right now. But you cannot tell me that Adam Cole is not as impressive and is not as awesome, especially character build, as Carmella. Get that garbage out of here right now.
He does not do it for me. He does not do it for me. He has never done it for me.
Do you watch the match? I mean, do you watch him?
I'm not saying he's not bad. To me, he's just another Shawn Michaels, and I'm not a Shawn Michaels fan. So, like, for me to watch...
But he's not flashy. Like, Adam Cole is not a flashy dude. He
baby all the time. Like, that's totally showmanship.
Are you kidding?
That's total showmanship.
Have you seen this guy's faces in the ring? Like, he tells so many stories just by his looks. If you want to go back and watch the time when Roderick Strong finally turned over to his side. The face that he has of like was total surprise. Brilliance.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
Out of here. Right now. No, you're not going to be defending Carmella. You're not going to be defending Carmella and then attacking Adam Cole, baby.
Man, I know how to turn Odin on there. Get that blender going. God. No, Adam Cole is not one of my favorites, but I do like the shock to the system. I love the Undisputed Era, but Adam Cole it's all about the baby.
Oh my God, no! I think we can just to bring it back. All of us can agree. Kyle O'Reilly is amazing.
All right.
Oh, Kyle O'Reilly is amazing. Yes.
Kyle O'Reilly.
100%.
All right, guys.
We're friends now, right?
We're friends again.
I don't know. Anyway, find out more on the next episode, guys. So thank y'all so much for watching. For Zach and Corey and Odin, thank y'all so much for watching.
Peace.
Thanks for joining Geeks and Gamers. Have a good one. See y'all next time, guys.